What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And this has been one, like when you're sitting at the racetrack and the fence is up and like the engines are revving, Granted didn't even have to ask us questions to warm us up. It was just one of those things. So I'm excited to get this one started. And I met our guest today from a friend and a former guest of Coffee and Grit, Brian Bastinelli, another awesome guy. And I love, me and Grant, we were talking about here a little bit before Seth got into the studio. Grant was saying, what I love is that like, this isn't just people that are on a show at one time, but it's like you're invested in the relationships, there's the constant update, or people are back on, or I always hear about what's going on with people now. And that's what it's all about. It's about the relationships. It's about the people. And so I'm sitting and having drinks with Brian Bastinelli, and I went home that night and I told my wife, I have a new best friend. This guy is amazing. But as I was sitting there, he's like, you got to meet Seth. Like Seth and you, I don't even know. He was like, I feel so compelled to connect you to. And so we met, and I think it was back in March, and we had a Zoom. So this is the first time meeting in person, which was awesome. And just had a killer conversation, and I'm super excited to talk about the things that Seth is doing, but talking about consistency, and I've had that in my mind ever since we've had that conversation. Just the consistency, it doesn't take even doing a great deal of things, right? It's just the little tiny things that you do repeatedly over and over again. And I've talked about Seth, actually alluded to him on one of my solo episodes, and talking about that consistency of just even doing this show. I didn't know where I was going to go. It was just the consistency of doing it over and over again, or the consistency of going to the gym. You're not going to get the body in 3 hours in one day, right? It's the over and over and over again of it. And so I guess to kick that off, let's bring Seth in here, and I'm super excited to get this conversation. So Seth, man, welcome to Coffee and Grit.
Thank you for having me. I've been really excited to do this.
Man, yeah, absolutely. So you're founder of True Defense, right?
Yes. Yep. Founded True Defense about I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago. It has been a journey, a journey of a lot of changes. Getting out of my own comfort zones, just going on this path to when I started True Defense. So I can honestly say that True Defense is always evolving. Like sometimes even from month to month, the way that I look at it, the way that when opportunities present themselves, it just continues to evolve. So, and what True Defense does is we provide safety solutions and coaching services. Where we started mainly is in the area, when I say safety solutions, is in the area of self-protection or self-defense, personal safety, and we do that in a lot of different ways.
So what got you started in that?
To be honest with you, it's going to sound cliche because I think a lot, sometimes people have heard these stories, but to be honest with you, it started in fourth grade. Me getting into a fight in elementary school to stick up for a friend of mine. And it was one of those things like, hey, you did something to my friend, I'll see you after school. And I just got the snot beat out of me. I mean, to be completely honest, yeah, I got the snot beat out of me. And I remember the guy's name. I remember what he looks like. And prior to that, I had taken a couple of years of karate, and even in fourth grade, I remember thinking, what just happened? Like, what just happened? Like, whatever I thought was going to happen didn't work.
I was going to say, you were very confident going in.
Yeah, I was very confident. And I wasn't confident in the way, like, even thinking, like, I wasn't confident thinking, like, oh, I know karate.
Yeah.
I was just confident that I could do this.
Yeah.
Like I could step toe to toe with somebody because of how I was feeling at the time.
Yep.
And make a difference. And I didn't. I mean, I got the snot beat out of me, crying, tears, Mom picks me up from school, and that stuck with me for a long time. And what stuck with me was doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It was doubt in myself. It was doubt in everything I thought would work or was told, or maybe it just like, I started thinking in terms of like, well, like that stuff didn't work at all. What I know doesn't work but I always like felt compelled to be able to defend myself. It was something that I've always been interested in, and so then as time went on, I found myself to always be a talker. I love to talk, which is why I'm stoked to be on here and having this conversation. I love conversations. But what I also did is I learned to get along with a lot of people, get really good at communicating, because what I learned from that is I wanted to avoid.
Yeah.
I wanted to avoid that happening again until I could figure out like, how does this work for me? And that went on through years, through high school. I mean, just never really being confident like that. And then in college, I met an incredible somebody who became a teacher and a mentor of mine, who then on the side, like then the martial arts came back again, learned something from him. And then I learned a lot of great things from him. Confidence was up again. Then a couple of years later after college, I find myself and I really dedicated myself to to what I had learned. And then I found myself in the police academy, screwing around with another cadet one day, like after defensive tactics training, which again, I was just like a sponge to, right? And we were screwing around, and I tried one of the things that I thought that I had done so many times, and it didn't work. And I could only do the thing after I did something else to be like, but it was that shock. It was the shock value of it didn't work. And so knowing that I'm kind of a protector by nature, that's kind of the path that I've taken, even with a career in law enforcement and things like that. Mm-hmm. I've always been on a constant pursuit to sponge whatever I can to become more confident and to protect myself, protect others around me, protect my family, and to really be on the search, always just on the search for the thing that clicked with me and that I could see like, yes, this is going to work. It's not going to work all the time, but I have to have a set of principles. I have to learn a set of principles that I can apply that can make me safer and build confidence in that. And it's taken a long time to do that. And I really found and then when it did click and I found other really great mentors and people, I was like, this is something that I want to do. I have to put this information out to other people. Because I know I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Feels exactly how you felt.
And really what that path was for me was awareness.
Uh-huh.
It was self-awareness. I feel like anytime you can get around somebody who's better than you at the thing that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Or the thing that you want to be good in, you have to seek out people that are better than you and spend time with those people and be a sponge. And so I really looked at when True Defense started, I was like, I know I'm not the only one who feels like this. But some of the people that I was exposed to, Brian Bastinelli being one of them, who was somebody who changed my self-awareness. He changed my awareness of a certain skill set. And then I learned to look at things and think differently based on what he was able to show me. Mm-hmm. So then, because I thought about things differently, my actions changed and my outcomes change. It's that cognitive shift, right? Yeah. And so I knew other people. And the thing that I found is self-protection, personal safety is not martial arts. It's not martial arts. Martial arts are great. But what I found was it's more about self-awareness, awareness, and finding something that works for everyone. Mm-hmm. Because not everybody's going to be the same sponge that you are.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a lot of people out there, and I get it all the time, where I tell them what I do. and they say to me, and they say, "Oh, I've always wanted to take a self-defense class," or "I've always really," and the the answer is always like, "Well, why haven't you?"
Yeah.
And I think it's people think that it is something that's going to take years and years, thousands and thousands of reps. And I've been exposed to a way of thinking and the way that I teach now with True Defense. That's our whole role, is to change the way you think about your own personal safety. And if you change the way you think, then you're going to move differently, and your choices are going to change. So we take a very evidence-based approach to being able to avoid, de-escalate, and then if push comes to shove, like that if you really have to physically do something, here are the options that are good for everyone. So
Before we get back at it, a quick shout out for our sponsor, Playbook Builder, powered by AI. This show has always been about giving the resources and the tools to small business owners in order to grow and scale your businesses successfully. And so I'm so excited to partner with a company that does just that. If you've listened and heard any of our guests, you've heard talking about building process, developing and training, building culture, are all such important pieces in order to building a great company. Well, Playbook Builder, powered by AI, has come along and revolutionized the game on how you can do that for your team and people. Whether you're onboarding new people, training and developing, continued training and developing, you're looking to scale your business or eventually sell, or most importantly, you're looking to build a legacy as a visionary. Playbook Builder, powered by AI, is able to solve those problems for you. For me as a consultant, I've been able to plug in, and it's so amazing for what I do for clients. I can now leave a legacy. And so, for example, I'm next week training a new hire for a company, and I've been able to build out the next month of her training program using Playbook Builder, powered by AI. The cool thing about the AI, what does that do? What's the hardest part of building out a process? Taking the step by step and making it easy to learn. What the AI piece does is you can actually type in what process it is, whether you want to onboard, if you want to onboard a new employee, type in onboard a new employee and what type of industry you're in, and the AI will put together a foundation for you to build out your playbook. It is absolutely incredible. But don't take my word for it. Head on over to playbookbuilder.com, and these guys have set it up to where you can take this for a test run with no obligations. Plug in what kind of playbook you want to build. If it's a sales training playbook, for example, plug that in the description. And in the description, you can also put in what kind of industry you're in, and then hit generate, and it will generate a playbook for you. Impressed from there, and you can take a 30-day free trial of the playbook system altogether. It's awesome because you've taken, you put all that time in figuring it out, finding the people, finding out what works. And now you can pour that back into people to shortcut that time. It doesn't take them the years that you put in.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, I really believe that the empowerment and the confidence that comes from just having a better understanding of how bad things happen. The more you know how bad things happen, how actual bad situations happen, well, then you're able to see the red flags when things are happening.
Yeah.
And then if you know what the red flags look like, and that's what I use, like with what we do, we always use the red flag as a symbolic thing of, because everybody knows what you mean when you say, well, oh, that was a red flag. Whether it was in business, whether it was in relationships or whatever, like it's usually after the fact, that you're like,
always
oh,
in hindsight.
yeah, it's always hindsight when you see these red flags and you're like, oh, why didn't I see them? Well, you didn't know which red
You're
flags
caught up in
to
the
look
emotions
for.
for one.
Yes, absolutely. You didn't know which red flags to look for.
Yeah.
So even like with somebody like yourself who's had years and years of entrepreneurial experience, working with people, consulting with people, your clients, the people that you work with, they benefit from the red flags that you have seen in hindsight.
Yep.
And the red flags that you've learned from other people. So people can learn from other people's mistakes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And you have the benefit as a coach to do that. And so that's kind of the approach that I try to take, is like anything is possible, but not everything is probable. And and so when we look at when people are looking at how do I become a safer person, it really comes down to awareness. and not just a situational awareness of the cliche, keep your head on a swivel, you know, and really pay it. Because again, like I can be looking around, but it doesn't mean that I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is teach people what red flags to look for. If you know what is a red flag, well, then as soon as you see it, you can start doing something way earlier.
It comes down to like the science of your brain, like reticular activation system. You know, if you're
Absolutely.
like, if you know what to look for, you can filter it out much quicker.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, what I like about this approach is it's approach that you can apply to a lot of things, not just your own personal safety.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing
Yeah.
that at True Defense that we really take, seriously is the fact that my client base probably are not the people that are going to take continuing training after this. Sometimes they want a lot, sometimes they want a little. So if you come to me and say, I got 2 hours, what can you tell me to be safer in 2 hours? The answer I can't give you is, I can't teach you anything in 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, I got to be able to give you some principles to understand within a 2 hour time span that it's not going to keep things from happening, but it's going to give you the ability to think differently. To think differently than you did before, 2 hours before.
Yeah.
About what you're seeing, how you see, and what you're aware of, what your own self-awareness is about how you feel about your own personal safety, what you're afraid of. Because your self-awareness is always going to impact the awareness that you have with anything else. Like, how honest are you being with yourself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that people are beating down my door day in and day out for this type of information. But what I find is that I've had greater success in just saying, this is what I do and how I do it.
Uh-huh.
And if people want it, they will seek me out. Rather than me having to try to sell, not really sell, but always having to like I did at the beginning, I did a lot of cold calling. I did a lot of tried to do a lot of self-promotion. And what I was really trying to self-promote was a change in thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
I spent a lot of time, basically what I found was trying to prove to people that I'm not teaching martial arts. Like, this is like to prove that what True Defense does is different than what you think like personal safety training can be, or personal safety like knowledge can be. And when I stopped trying to say this is why we're different, what I found was the interactions that I had with people, they saw that I saw things differently, that I thought a different way about. And because of that, they were more open to being like, oh, yeah, I'm interested in that.
You weren't telling them.
Yeah, which was interesting. It like an interesting thing to look back on now.
Yeah, yeah. You're either winning or learning, though, right? As you go through that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know what I mean? And when I first started this, when I first started True Defense, we started out as an affiliate of another company, which is a fantastic, amazing personal safety self-defense system. So I was an affiliate trainer of and teaching their program.
Okay.
And I saw it going one direction. And then after a couple of years, I kind of had to pivot and go, well, like, this wasn't really going how I thought it would go. And then there was some I think as a lot of people do when they start out in business, and be like, well, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. So that's my screw up. And I focused more on what I did that didn't make me successful. And then it took me a while to really kind of reinvent the way that I was doing things, and to be like, yeah, you are the reason why it didn't go that reason, or that direction. However, maybe that's not the direction that it was meant to go. So which direction is it meant to go? Like start looking that way.
Yeah.
And again, it's changing the way you think.
Yep.
And you can't change the way you think without awareness. And I think awareness and self-awareness is something that is it's being talked about more, but let's be honest, self-awareness is not something people like. It's not easy. It's
if you
not
knew you
easy
had a problem,
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time you're walking around, you don't realize that you have a problem. Mm-hmm. You might even judge other people and like talk out loud about other people that are doing the same exact thing as you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially like, I think especially in the business world, it is so easy to watch other people be successful and then get down on yourself.
Yep.
And to get a little, I bet you we've all been a little bit resentful when you see somebody who's in your same field crushing it, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, whatever you see, and be like, really, that person?
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
rough. And I haven't, I never sought out to be in business. Like, it's completely out of my comfort zone. Like like I never, to me, the business world is, let me be a little bit more self-aware here too. The small business world.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in the small business world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm not going to make myself out to be something that I'm not. I have a small business, but even at that, it was a lot for me to manage the fear that I have over, which is self-awareness.
Yep.
And being like, why can't you do this? Like I looked at so many reasons why I couldn't start True Defense. And that's why, and I probably sat and thought about it for 2 years before I actually took the step. And to be like, no, I'm going to do this. Let me get an LLC. Let me figure this, like, in not knowing.
What was that shift?
I think I'll tell you, it had a lot to do, it had a lot to do with probably the person who I credit to being my best coach.
Uh-huh.
And that is my wife. My wife is the best coach that I have ever had.
That's amazing.
Because my wife is absolutely she's nothing but action. She doesn't think too long about something. We joke around like she's always had this mentality of like 1, 2, ready, go. And that's just who she is. It's like ingrained in her DNA, and she's incredible. And that is not in my DNA.
Yeah.
It just isn't. Like and I don't know if it was from that playground in 4th grade that made me doubt myself and doubt my abilities. There's, we can deep dive into, if you really want to be self-aware, deep dive in where some of your doubts come from.
Absolutely.
And see how far back they come from your own experiences. But she is the person who has coached me to be like, there's no reason why you can't do this. Like, you are good enough to do this. So figure it out. And the way that she has, and I give her all the credit for this because I think it's genius. She talks about just do the next thing. Mm-hmm. You get so wrapped up in starting a business with all the things that come with it. But if you can slow down and you can just say, okay, what's the next thing? I'm going to do this. Could be big, could be small. But once you do it, okay, so what's the next thing?
What's the next thing after that?
And so, and really that just do the next thing, I find is a really good fear management tool. So when you start to feel that doubt, that fear that holds us either back from doing the things we really want to be doing, or just keeps us in one place and not even realizing what we want to be doing. Like just do the next thing is gold.
Well, and it's the antithesis of what you were doing before that. And I read this book. I can't even think of what the name of the book was a long time ago, but it was talking about it. It's always stuck with me because it's talking about when you're making something difficult, like if you don't like cooking, for example, when you think about cooking, you're like, oh, I got to go to the store. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
crowded. I got to wait through the line. Then I got to pick out these items. I don't even know what I want, and then I got to,
Right.
there's so many steps to it. And then I got to come home. I've got to do the dishes. It's step by step by step. If you love cooking, it's like, oh, I got to go prepare. I'm going to come home, start the grill, throw the food on, and then prepare a delicious meal.
Yeah, it's kind of the difference between that that thought process of I have to versus I get to.
Yeah.
And I mean that can be applied in a lot of different ways. And so that's that's why I like that you brought that up, because it's one of those things like and we can look at that when things aren't going well. Because let's face it, True Defense took a hit when it came to the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
When it was like leading up into 2019, like I changed a bunch of things, had this like momentum build, and I was so stoked. Like I had like by January of 2020, I was receiving all types of cold calls, emails, had all of this like momentum building to where I was like, I'm like already set up in January to double the amount of business that I just did the 2 previous years.
Yeah.
And this is between January and April. And I was like, oh, and then the world shut down.
Shut down. Oh my God.
And it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard when you can't be around people to be doing something like personal protection, self-protection, where it really helps to be able to be this close to somebody.
You're not doing this over Zoom.
No. And looking back on it, and now I see what other people did with Zoom, and you're like, oh, I could have done that.
Yeah.
But again, I really believe in, I have to say that I believe, I mean, everything happens for a reason and things like that.
Absolutely.
But and I really do, and I think with my faith, and the fact that the focus that I have, the focus that I have put on my faith has made me a whole lot more comfortable with the direction that things have naturally gone. Instead of looking at things of like, oh, I could have done that, or I should have done that, looking at it as like, well, this is where I was meant to be. And once you can accept that, because my career, I feel like even my professional career that I do professionally, I've been in law enforcement for 17 years in different capacities. My law enforcement career did not go how I mapped it out when I was 14 or 15 and saw the direction.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, honestly, like I was maybe like my late 30s where I just went like, this is where, like, this isn't how I saw this going, but
This is where you're supposed to be.
that's where I'm supposed to be. Like everything led to this. So embrace that and don't look back on why things didn't. And then again, what is that? That's a shift in thinking. And
It's a shift in your
awareness.
awareness too.
Yes.
Because you don't even know what's possible. I laugh like if we think about like what what are our kids as you're a kid thinking about what you're going to do, and there's really only like 5 things that the kids are even aware that they can do. You're either going to be in law enforcement, a fire department. You're going to be an athlete.
Absolutely.
You're going to be there's like 6 things. A nurse,
absolutely.
a doctor, a lawyer. There's these main things, but most people don't grow up to be those 6-7 things.
No. And that's why like I really like I come back to that awareness piece. I don't care if we're talking about personal safety. I don't care if we're talking about your relationship with your spouse or your significant other. Or business.
Yeah.
Like without awareness, you are not going to find your full potential or even maybe even find the direction that you should be heading in without awareness. And I really think now self-awareness again is going to directly impact that. And I'm a firm believer in, like I said earlier, about putting yourself around people better than you. And it doesn't have to be in person. Like I know there's a lot of ways that social media it can be awful. Whether it's the FOMO of fear of missing out and seeing what, people only post the good and maybe not. But social media is a way to connect with people
Absolutely.
that in the areas that you are interested in.
Yes.
In the areas that you want to be better in.
Yep.
To find those people that are better than you, are doing the things that you want to be doing. And not take that as oh, well, look at this person.
Look at this person. Yeah.
Which is super easy to do, but I mean like sponge that knowledge.
Yeah.
And then figure out what to do with it on your end, because you're not that person.
Instead of being
you're
like,
you.
oh, it must be nice. Like,
yeah.
pick their brain. What'd they do? What'd they do to get that?
Absolutely.
You know?
And when if you're committed to whatever that is, whether it's your relationships, whether it's business, whether it is just your own personal life and how you do things. If you're open to seeing, okay, who's better at this than me, or who's a better communicator at me, like if you're open to that way of thinking, naturally your self-awareness is gonna get that check.
Yep.
Because then you have to acknowledge, I can do better, and acknowledge, this is where I screwed up.
Yeah.
This is where, this is my problem. I can not like the situation that I'm in, but I'm really, when it comes down to it, I'm the only one in control of this. Self-awareness is huge. And once you can get comfortable with that self-awareness and having those hard conversations with yourself, you become aware of so many things and see your surroundings differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's in these different areas, and you're like, and then once you expand your awareness, then you can see where you need to be consistent. And that's where, I think the consistency piece comes in. To me, consistency matters. And I like to say consistency maintains capability.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're consistent in the direction that you want to be going in, not perfection, consistency. And I really think, and that's where, as True Defense has evolved, we are still doing, self-protection, personal safety, creating greater awareness about how to be safe. But that is now where True Defense is evolving, not only with safety solutions and consulting, but now in what we call consistency coaching. And helping people that really want to improve areas and become more aware of what their potential is. And then having them be able to be coached, reach out to a coach and see the red flags.
Yeah.
And just like we teach people to see the red flags of a bad situation, help people become aware of the red flags that is maybe holding them back from the direction they want to head, maybe in their own personal relationship, in their family relationships, professional relationships, or just be the person that they've always wanted to be but don't know how.
Yep.
Because I know how that feels. I know how it feels to be like, my greatest fear is not being the person that I want to be, that I wanted to be, and letting other people down. Because I wasn't able to meet that standard that I held for myself to do that for other people and to be effective. And it doesn't take perfection, because you look at all high performers in whatever areas they are, nobody's perfect, but the people that are successful, it's because they are relentlessly consistent in the right direction, not perfect.
Yes. You get better as you're consistent, every day doing it. This podcast, and I've had people be like, "Oh, you're great at interviewing." Again, I've gotten better because this is like the 115th or 16th episode.
Everything you do is
conversations is reps. It's reps constantly over and over again.
Absolutely. And I mean, and I can't take credit for all the things I'm saying. Like, oh, I just came up with this. No, I'm the direct product of where I am right now, of the people that I put myself in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, my wife, she's my best friend. Since the day I met her, all I want to do is hang out with her.
That's so awesome.
But it's because she makes me better, because she has shown me who I like. So if I'm consistently around her, and and it's not easy, because I bet most of us that have been married for a while too know that that person who values you for who you are, they will tell you things and they don't get through to you. Because for whatever reason, maybe it's, I don't know, it's like, oh, well, I didn't. But then when you hear something from somebody else and it's, and then you say, oh, guess what? You know what I realized? And they look back at you and be like, haven't I told you that?
I said that.
Yes. Yeah, you have, but I didn't want to hear it from you. And that's why it's so important to like be a sponge and really seek out people to mentor. Like, and again, when I say mentor, I don't mean like somebody take you under their wing personally, but to expose yourself to information.
Yeah.
To people that are better than you and use that to reflect on your own self-awareness to be like, okay, how does this apply to me? Not them, because I'm not them. Like that, I think, is really how you start to see the red flags of your own personal potential, your own personal direction, professional direction. Once you see the red flags, you'll get consistent reps avoiding those situations. When you get consistent good reps, well, then that's your consistency.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're not going to get bad reps.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get, but hopefully our bad reps aren't consistent.
The other, and I love working. I work with salespeople, and it's necessary to get the reps in, right? If you're about to make calls, let's get the reps in. Like, what are you going to say? You know,
Right.
like, what's the conversation going to be like? And so I was working with a salesperson the other day, and I was like, she's about to go, and like, you ready to, practice that call out? Let's make it. And she was like, no, I'm good. I'm like, oh, you're good. Like, you know exactly what you're going to say. You're ready to go. And she was like, yeah. I'm like, well, then say it. Like, then say it real quick. If you're ready to go, like, just let's run through it.
Yeah.
And turns out she wasn't ready, right? And so then I rolled through with what I would say, and she was like, oh my God, let me write that down. It's like, we need to get this practice and reps. And I've had so many salespeople that are like, they get cringy and like want to vomit when I say, let's role play, and I get it. But if I had $1 for every time I've had a salesperson come to me and be like, oh my God, just today I had we practiced today, that role play, and just today I had a situation that came up. It's that awareness, right?
Absolutely.
We go through this situation, and I know it's not real, but like, you're going through,
I've seen this before.
You've seen this before.
Yeah.
And somebody walks in with that scenario. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
And that's one of the things that we do, even like with our personal safety courses, is most people there's so many people now that have never been hit in the face.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or have ever hit somebody. There's a lot of people that have never actually hit a person.
Yeah.
Whether it's in sports, or maybe they didn't have that interaction. And so what I try to do is, at the end of, and so the approach that we take with our classes is that we probably spend between 70 and 80% of a class just talking, raising awareness, talking about how these bad things happen. How did we get here? Mm-hmm. And then spend that, 20 to 30% on the physical aspects of it. Because most of the time that bad things happen, or safety situations, dangerous situations, violent encounters, whatever you want to call them, happen, they're not spontaneous.
Yeah.
There are things that led up to that. There were red flags. Maybe you didn't see them because maybe we were distracted by our phone. Maybe we're sitting in the parking lot with our head down, not paying attention. So then it seems spontaneous because they were right there. But if we didn't say, you see where I'm getting at?
Oh, yeah.
And so what we like to do is at the end of and these are a lot of times these are very more just informational and aware and just in awareness-based seminars but at the end of it, I try to give everybody the opportunity to actually hit a person, and that person's me. And I have a suit that's called a high gear suit that's made by a company called Blower Tactical, which really impacted me. That was the company that I was affiliated with.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely incredible, especially changing the way that I thought about things, and learned so much from my experience working with them. But they have a suit that it's called a high gear suit that I have full range of motion as the bad guy. It's an impact reduction suit,
Okay.
which means I can
You
feel
can still
things.
feel it.
I can feel it. I can feel the impact of what you're doing, so I'm actually going to react. So I've got this helmet that I can put on, but I can actually move like a regular person. It's not like one of those big red suits where I just kind of walk up like Marshmallow Man.
You're like a
and
weeble
there's
wobble.
No,
like
yeah, and no, and like it's not realistic, and it's not the same as being in a violent encounter. But
Yeah.
I try to give anybody who wants to. Now we tie everything in together at the end and say, okay, who wants to hit me in the face? And some people are like, no, I don't want to do it. And what I try to do is I was like, hey, it's all what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I get it. But do you want the opportunity to have here to be able to learn how to hit somebody in the face, know what it feels like when you're in a safe environment? Or, so this is when you choose to do it. Or do you want it to have it when maybe it's your only choice?
Yeah.
And you've never done it before.
Yep.
Like,
Give me the practice all day long.
right. And that's the role play part of it. You know, it's like,
Yep.
oh, it's like the clients you were working with.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good. Are you?
Are
Okay,
you?
so then tell me. Oh, I know what I'm going to say. Then say it. Oh, I can hit.
Then do it.
Oh, I can. Then why won't you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for one thing, I've always found is like, it's fun. Like once you realize that like it doesn't take much to really smash somebody in the face,
Yeah.
and you realize how to do it, how to approach it.
I can imagine the aggression that some of these people get out.
Oh, well, I mean, at one point now I wear a mouth guard. And I'll
Once you let them loose, they're like,
well, I mean, I have this helmet and it covers everything, but now I start wearing a mouth guard inside the helmet because of my head snapping back. Like most of the time my head snaps back like a Pez dispenser.
yeah.
And most of the time, I'll be honest with you, my clients are teens
Uh-huh.
and women.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I can tell you that unless it was a workplace training that I've been brought in to do, I haven't trained a guy yet.
Wow.
You know why? Because guys are like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I love, and I tell all the women in my class, I'd be like, you know why you're here and your husband's didn't show up? Because guys are stupid. Because guys don't want to know. Ego. Because guys don't want to know what they don't want to know.
Yeah.
And, oh, I got this. Okay.
You just keep thinking of the Mike Tyson quote, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. And it's like, and so giving women the opportunity to smash somebody in the face. And when they see the ability that they have, and it's like, oh, well, that wasn't really hard at all. And I'm like, and we talked about how hard you can kind of like let's do a threshold test because, I got to go to work tomorrow too, and you see the light bulb go off. And it's not about, oh, I know how to fight. No, you just change the way you see everything, the way you see yourself, the way you see the situation when it goes down. Yep. And you also see like what you're not comfortable with. And so if this is a position that you really don't want to be in.
Yep.
So now I've hit somebody. I don't like it. Okay, cool. You don't like it. Well, now what does that mean? It means my awareness has got to be up so I can avoid more. So I can see things coming so I can make those changes. Perfect.
Awareness up,
yes.
humor up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Personality on high.
And again, then when you do that, then it's just, hey, now get your reps in.
Yeah.
You don't have to come back to me tomorrow and us run through this again, because like we're building these reps. Now it's on you. Now, how consistently are you going to get your head out of your phone? How consistently are you going to think, okay, I should be doing this?
Yeah.
So
it makes me think of you in fourth grade. It's probably the first time you got punched or punched somebody.
Oh yeah.
And you were confident in the sense of like, let's go.
Oh, let's go. Yeah. It's like, I'll see you on the plate, and he hit me so many times in the face. I just remember like, oh my gosh, like what just happened?
Yeah.
Like that really hurt. That hurt. And he hit me so many times. And it's like, I don't want to feel like that again. But because I've been there, and that's not the only time, that's ever happened, but because I've been there before, that also motivates you to be like, yeah, I don't want to feel like that again. Like, you're not going to get that chance with me. Or I'm not going to, I'm not going to focus on, ow, that hurts. Like, it's that, like, when if nobody's ever been hit, you got a couple of choices.
Yeah.
It's, you focus on, ow, that hurts. Or, ow, that hurts. I don't want that to happen again. So now I got to make sure it doesn't. And I got to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Defense. It's I mean, what's the best defense? It's a good offense. And really, what is offense? It's action. Whether it's business, whether it's your personal life, like, are you doing a lot of talking, or are you taking a lot of action? Because I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of just sitting there and just thinking about it and doing a lot of talking at times and going like, I should do this, I should do that, or I could do. Okay, so do it. Evolve. Like, continue to move forward. But the more consistent you can get with the action part of it, even the little stuff, it's all good reps.
It's all good reps. I've worked with so many people that will paralyze themselves in the unknown. Will this work? Will this work for sure? They'll read so many books, or they'll do so many things to know whether...
Guilty.
Right? It's for sure. And you won't know until you put in the reps. Like, are you meant to do this coaching? I don't know. Like, do you like working with those types of people? You won't know until you go and try it. And until you do, you're sitting there in your head proposing what it's going to be like. And
Absolutely.
depending on what perspective you're in.
Right. And that's really what got me interested in pursuing, this other division of True Defense, which is the consistency coaching. Like, I want to work with people. I want to work with people because I've had good coaches. And it wasn't people saying, hey, come here, I see something in you. That happened a few times.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it was me having to say, like, hey, look, I think there's something I can learn from you. Yep. And it doesn't. And whether you want to spend time with me or not, I'll find opportunities to be around you. And I'm just going to try and sponge off of you. And the things that has done for me personally, and I can say, even our conversation that we had on Zoom in March, you did that for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
You did that for me. There were things that you said to me during that, and I was like Jason coaches people. He coaches people in an area that I cannot coach people in. But he's a coach, and a good coach that I learned from somebody else who said, so an instructor will tell you, do this.
Do this, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
A coach is different. And a coach's job isn't to show you what they can do, but what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's absolutely the truth.
And so I think once you start thinking in those terms about coaching, you start seeing coaches differently. And be like, oh, you're not really a coach. And it could be your kids coach on their sports team or whatever. But when you start looking at it as like, is a coach showing that person what they're capable of doing? Or are they showing them what the coach was capable of doing?
That is so true. And I have a client that I just started with a couple months ago. And when we started our talking, she was like, I'm so tired of all the programs of the coaches that I've had that are do this recipe. And I'm like, that's not a coach. That's a trainer. That's a program you're investing in.
Yes,
that's
it's
not
programming.
A coach. And the reason why you're struggling so much is you're trying to find somebody that will help you with what you already have.
Yes.
You're not trying to add new recipes that you've never made before.
Right. Let's find out what do you already do well, but let's take that.
What do you got in your pantry?
Yes.
Let's make this soup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I like, this stuff really is like where so much of my interest is in now. Like, I love watching people perform at a high level.
Yeah.
And it's not always me. It's not always me.
Yeah.
Because, but I know that like where I'm at is a direct, or the direction that I am heading is a direct result of those that I have put myself around, listened to, and then taken what they have and adjusted my own awareness about what I'm doing and how I do it.
Yep.
And that's what I want to do for other people. Like, I love teaching people how to be safer, but it's not for me, it is more about watching people change the way they think. Like, that's the thing that I love most about it. And so now I just like, and it doesn't matter if it's in the area of safety or not, I just like watching people change.
Yeah.
And just be more aware of things, to be like, and not say that like people have to like change, but I mean like be the best version of you.
Best version of themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
And like, I want to help people do that. And I've worked in the other capacities that I've, in some of the other jobs I've done professionally over the years too. What I find is that I have one of the things I do really well is I notice patterns of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just something that like I notice it. I notice, I listen when people talk to me. I listen. I remember details. But those details are always patterns to me, and I always look at behaviors. And it was like, okay, we can't always see those. And that's what's so great about having somebody to spend an hour with and talk to about things that are going on with you.
Yep.
Maybe it's just
Yes.
maybe it's just debriefing
Yes.
the stuff that you're good at, or just your day to day. But you'd be surprised on if you have somebody who is an impartial third party to debrief a situation with, what that can do when they're like, hey, I got a little bit of a 30,000 foot view of this.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of red flags that have you realized that there's a couple red flags here, or would you call them red flags and have them go, oh, I didn't look at it like that before. Okay, what do you want to do with those?
Yes.
Oh, and then it's like, situation totally changes. Like, I look at consistency coaching with that. Like, let's find out the areas that you want to work with people
And that's what's
on.
so important is where going back to that awareness, what makes you the best version of you?
Right, absolutely.
What makes you the happiest? Because who is that person that you want to be inside, and what's preventing you from being that? Like,
Right.
you talked about, like, what's stopping you?
Right. And I mean, and for me, I mean, like, for me, sometimes it's my kids. It's my kids, it's my kids making a joke.
Yeah.
Like, they have a joke that, they joke about like, oh, here comes Mad Dad. And so like, and so that's one of the things where you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, you guys are making a joke we all laugh at about Mad Dad.
Yeah.
What's making Dad mad? Like, to me, when my kids said that was a red flag for me. Like, but I didn't hear it on the first one. We laughed about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
here comes Mad Dad. Because this thing, I'm not gonna lie, I naturally lean towards a sweat the small stuff kind of person. Big things, I'm like, let's take care of this. It's the little stuff, like I'm trying to smoke a pork shoulder and I totally forgot the apple juice that I need to spritz it with. Like, and now I'm like, okay. So, and those are things that I'm aware of, that I really need that because for me, I'm the guy who does like to cook.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that does like to cook. I get to make this, not I have to make this.
Yeah.
But I really like to be prepared. I like to be prepared for things.
So now you're thrown off.
And when I get thrown off, the Mad Dad comes out. And so we joked about that, and that was a red flag. But I didn't see it the first time they threw that flag up there. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So then, there it is again. They make he's gonna lose it, and then once you see a couple of red flags, like, are you consistently just going to be confident enough in you that you're just going to disregard those red flags when you see them?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have. We all have.
Yep. We laugh it off.
We laugh it off and keep moving that direction.
Yep.
Or
kind of makes me think of a couple situations about me. Yeah, exactly.
Or then once you've seen those red flags get thrown up a couple of times, now do you go to another person? Like I go to my wife and I go, hey, am I really that? Like they keep calling me Mad Dad and it's funny.
Yeah.
And we're all joking about, but there's got to be like
there's something there.
Is there something there? And then she was like, well, have you again, are you going to blow this off? Or are you going to take the input from somebody who now is watching things from the outside?
Yep.
And they're going to say, hey, are you ready for this? That's where the self-awareness comes in. There is no there will be consistency, but I don't think there's positive consistency in a positive direction without awareness. And that's what I love about what you do. And the clientele that you have built up, that you were like, hey, I saw myself in other people and I saw where I needed to make changes.
Yeah.
And now I want to give that to other people. Like that right there is awareness. And I want to make sure people have that. Like, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You and that's what people, they're not going to come to you and continue to be coached if they can't handle their own self-awareness.
Yeah.
But the data's there when you're in sales, is it not?
It's there. It's there.
That's tough to do. That's tough to, you can blow off, the kids' jokes, but
I had this
the data's there.
He was one of my favorite of all time, but we started off not even in a client relationship. I had met him in a networking meeting or in we were in a little mastermind group, and I didn't know him very well, but he was kind of just lamenting. And I said these words that honestly, I felt really bad because I could tell I crushed his soul. Like what I had said, I felt so bad about it. I was going to call him. I was going to call him and apologize for what I had said. And I told my wife about it. She's like, I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, it just kind of came out. The next week I came back to this meeting and he was like, you changed my life. He was like, you said those things. Nobody's ever had the balls to say those things to me. He was like, and I was so pissed off. He was like, I was like, who is this guy? He was like, I cursed your name all the way home. He's like, and then I got home. It reminded me of the story you just said. He's like, I got home and he's like, I started telling my wife, this guy, and this is what he said to me. And he was like, can you believe? And he was like, that's exactly the face she made. And he was like, I knew right then that you were the first person that told me the truth. And he was like, and it changed his life. He was like, because then once he's aware of what he's doing, he was like, now I have a decision. And he's like, I decided I wanted to live, essentially. I wanted to grow my business. And he was like, so I've had the best week I've had he's like, I did I called the people that you told me I needed to call. I got off I stopped, being scared about it. I just did it.
Yeah. Well, and like I even look at with True Defense and the evolving that it continues to do. When COVID hit, it was like, I'm not doing classes right now because nothing. But I focused somewhere else, and where I focused was like, we just embraced the time we had as a family.
Yeah.
At home, like we ate it up. We looked. We don't look back on what happened fondly, but we still look back on that time and be like, oh, and what I did, and that was a time where I wasn't doing any business.
Yeah.
But that time that I took away from it only made me ready to, when I can do that, to see things from a whole different perspective. And the more time that I spent with my wife, the more time that I talk to other people, and it wasn't about, the pressure wasn't, and I mean, in True Defense is not how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
But the pressure that was off of like, I don't have to do this right now. Then when I get to do it again, the view that I have is completely different. And there was a lot of growth that happens in those times because of greater awareness. And so then what do? We were able to move forward. And we're starting to, and that's where like I would have like I knew the direction that I wanted True Defense to go. I never thought that I would be adding consistency coaching.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to meet people. I'm super excited to have people, reach out to us and say, hey, like, I want to work with you. Like, and it could be as simple as like, okay, this is how we're going to start.
Yeah.
Let's go for a walk. We're going to go for a walk. Like, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just debriefing. But there's so much great coaching that comes from debriefing. Like, do you ever have like your clients, like they get on that call, like, okay, let's role play. We do it. And then the next time you talk to them, you like debrief the call. What went well, what didn't.
Yeah.
That's where the coaching comes in again, right?
Yeah.
And then you only get better from that. You only get better from the ego checks.
Yep.
You only get better from like, and it's not a like, I'm never satisfied type of thinking.
Yeah.
It's a, what else am I capable of type of thinking.
Yes.
Like that call went great, but let's also talk about what didn't go great about that call.
What could go better? Where could I be better?
Yeah. Maybe I didn't bring a bottle of water with me and my mouth was dry the whole time. And I felt like, or I was like, I had to, or I didn't charge my AirPods that I was talking, like something like it's the logistical thing.
Yep.
But we have to focus on that because you don't want those details to be inconsistent for the next one.
Yes.
Yeah. Because consistency matters. And that's where I keep coming back to that too, where it's like, if you're consistently doing things less effectively, then you will be less effective.
Yep.
Consistency matters. It doesn't matter if it's like, whether it's like you even mentioned at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I really like about focusing on consistency and not perfection is it gives us as people gives us grace. It gives us grace to when we're not the best version of ourselves.
Yep.
When we fall short. But if you're consistent, you don't stay there very long.
Absolutely true.
It's not the only bad, like, are you going to continue to make bad sales calls or not make the calls? But if you're making 3 sales calls a week and they're freaking you out every single time, well, if you up that to 5 sales calls a week, more reps.
Yeah. It's more reps.
It's more reps. And eventually 5 is not going to feel like the 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to stay on that path. So then when you're not feeling it and you only get that 3 in, that's just for that week.
Yeah.
Because you're going to kick it back up to 5 the next week again because you've been consistent with like knowing what your operating tempo is.
Yep. But you through that, again, through those conversations, through those sales calls, you learn and adjust through all of that. You get better and better, versus not doing them. You lose that. Now you call that next person, you're tripping over yourself.
Right. Absolutely. And just, I think sometimes too, just being okay with being like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that didn't work. Like, gosh, I look back on some of the first classes I taught and realizing like, look, to really give good content to people, because I want to give the best content that I can give. Like, look, if the only time that you ever have is one time in your life to take a personal protection class, a self-protection class, like, I want to give you the best I can give you right now.
Yeah.
If that's it. And I used to look at it as like, I'm going to need at least 6 to 8 hours of your time, which in the scheme of things really isn't much.
Yeah.
When it comes to that. But it's a lot for people that this is not where they're committed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they still want it. So now it's, how much time do you have? Me, I do a minimum of 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm honest with people and say, this is not going to make you a trained ninja CIA asset. Like you are not going to be John Wick, Jason Bourne, a trained cage fighter in this. This is not going to teach you jujitsu. This is not going to this is not going to cover all the bases. What it's going to do is if I've got 2 hours with you, what we're going to talk about is principles. Because, and that's what I've learned from some of my coaches over the years, or the people that have interacted with me, maybe just spent some time talking with me because I sought them out, because I was like, this person knows way more than me, and I gotta know something that they know. Like, give me what you can give me right now. And one of the biggest things that has been so impactful on me is talking about the technique-based training versus principle-based training. And you touched on that when you were talking about the client that you had that came with you and said, like, I'm tired of reading these books. Yeah. I'm tired of going to these seminars about how to be successful in sales, following this formula. That's technique-based training.
Yep.
It's fine. But what I hear you saying, and that you run off of a principle-based training. Like, here are principles of what you want to. Here's a principle of making a call.
Yep.
Or being in a sales meeting, pitching this sale, closing this sale. Like, there's principles that we adhere to.
Yep.
And if you adhere to these principles, they're flexible. If you're going to break this principle, know why. And this is what I learned from a good friend of mine who I learned just so many things from, is he talks about the principles.
Yep.
Techniques are for situations like 1 + 1 = 2. Use this technique.
Yep.
Very rarely. That's going to happen when everything's perfect. It's
Yes.
going to work when it works just in this box, and that situation fits in this one box. But if you become comfortable with learning principles, those principles can be applied to numerous types of situations.
Yes.
And your principle, and then you add the techniques within the principles.
Yes.
But so many people, I think, want the 1 + 1 = 2 instead of, and that's what I think a lot of people get used to.
Yeah.
When they're getting instruction or trying to learn something new.
Yep.
Instead of seeking out people that are principle based. And so I'm going to try to teach you those principles of self-awareness, situational awareness, what to look for, and what do we grab onto here. And if you're gonna break a principle, you better know why. That's one thing that my friend Dom harps on all the time. You better know why you break that principle, because principles are not made to be broken. They're there for a reason. So if you're gonna do it, know why and be comfortable with it, and then take action and do it. But that's where, like, hey, if I got 2 hours with you, it's gonna be principle based.
Yeah.
It's not gonna solve all your problems, but it's going to hopefully make you prepared and not paranoid.
It's awesome. And I love, we've had this comparison a lot. It's whether you're doing self-defense or sales or leadership or just relationships. When you're doing the right principles, you'll be a master at all of it. And that's why you see people that, whether it's karate or whatever, they get into it and they're like, oh, I'm changing my life. I've had people that I've worked with in a sales capacity that they're like, I'm changing my relationships. Like, my relationships or personal relationships are changing.
Yes.
It's because they're principles. It's not the technique, right?
Yeah, that's so huge when you're working with people, because they see that. Like, so if you give them principles of like, hey, have you ever thought about saying it this way?
Yeah.
Or opening this way? Like, this is a principle of like a good principle to think about when you're opening with somebody who is just like, you haven't even interacted mostly, maybe they don't even know you. Like, this is a very new thing. Like, you didn't get referred by somebody.
Yeah.
But this is a great opening to think about in terms of that.
Yeah.
Well, when you give them the why behind that, like, it's communication.
Yes.
So they're going to think about, like, hey, like, if I got to sell this idea to my friend, well, then I'm going to use that same type of opening. Now you've just improved your communication with people in general.
People in general. Yeah. Period.
With your friends, your family, your spouse, your kids, like, and then you got to be able to check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I go back to the mad dad thing. And it's like, I straight up just like ask my kids, hey, I feel as though I have been working really hard to not be mad dad as much.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen it?
Doing the checkup.
Doing the checkup. Like being, again, like putting yourself out there, being self-aware enough to be like, okay, so you think that you've been being pretty consistent. Now, are you being, like, are you actual, are you like, has your consistency turned into capability?
Yep.
And if it is, and so if you get the good feedback, like for your, for people in sales, people in business, there's the data.
Yeah.
Are you making sales?
Yeah.
Are you making revenue? Are you getting more clients? If you're seeing that, well, yeah, sounds like whatever you're doing is working.
Yep.
Stay at it.
Yep. Yep.
But no, you're going to get a bad rep. They're not always going to be perfect, but be consistent. And if you continue to do that, then your capability is going to be there. So when I check in with my kids and I'm like, hey, how's Mad Dad doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want them to be honest with him and be like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's came out a little bit, like, oh, okay. Or they're like, think you've been doing a good job. You're not as much. Okay. Then whatever I'm doing, that's the consistency path that I've got to be on now.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that Mad Dad doesn't show up.
Yeah.
But consistency.
But you probably catch yourself a lot quicker too.
Absolutely. Consistency maintains capability.
Yeah.
Not perfection. Like we want it. Do you want to be capable, physically capable? Well, then, like you mentioned, like going to the gym.
Yep.
Like the person who's consistent is always going to be more capable than the person who is perfect for 90 days or 2 weeks or a month.
Reading The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay.
And just to wrap this up, just what you're talking about, I'm in the very early chapters, and he's talking about the outlier of 70% of hockey players were born in the months January. 70% of Canadian hockey players, the best performing Canadian hockey players, were born through the month between January and April.
Okay.
Why would that be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you look at the outlier is that in Canada, like the league cutoff is in January, and so like the older, bigger, stronger kids are going to be when the kids that turn 18 or whatever turn their age, so they start sifting off their leagues by the age of 9, and so the kids that are the most talented at 9 are the kids that are sifted off into the top leagues, into their top league in Canada. And when you get into the top league, you get more practice time, you get more coaches, you get more, and so these kids at 9 are physically bigger because they're more developed than the other kids. And so the coaches see that these are bigger, stronger, faster kids. They get elevated into the bigger program. And though as these kids age, if they would just age naturally, they'd be the same. But because these kids are getting more consistent work, they're getting more coaching, they're getting more, they're playing against better talent. They're different people, and it's consistent. It's not in a year, it's not in 2 years, it's not in 3 years, but you look at 4 years of time of an athlete that these two guys might be the same size, but the reps and the coaching and all that they're two completely different players.
Absolutely. And I think, I think what hopefully appeals to people that are looking to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And to go into coaching, I think consistency is comforting. Because it's not what makes somebody else. It's not what the other person. It's not about comparing yourself to somebody. Maybe it's taking what somebody does consistently, somebody else does, and be like, hey, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
But on my level.
Yep.
With the balance that I want to have. And I think consistency is comforting. Like to me, it's comforting to be like, because I can take a day off because stuff happens. But that day, 2 days, a week doesn't turn into months because consistency doesn't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
But if you go consistently another direction, that's where I think people feel stuck and don't see it any other way.
Yep.
So
consistently your habits and your action, your mindset
Absolutely.
consistently every single day create who you are.
Absolutely. And so like having people, like you can't do this by yourself. I really don't think that you can be the best version of yourself
Without other people.
without other people. You know, and if you can, I mean, then there's not many people out there
You know,
that can do that can
Yeah.
just be alone.
nobody's self-made.
No, you know,
You've
and
mentioned it, and that's that. Most of my guests talk about the people that have impacted their change in their life, and you've mentioned it over and over and over again. It's the people.
Yeah, it's not like I can't just say like now there are certain things that I see like, hey, here's a pattern that with greater awareness comes greater self-awareness, and you also recognize what you're like, give yourself credit what you're good at.
Yeah.
Like what are you really good at? Give yourself credit for that. And make sure that that's fuel for your consistency.
Yep.
But then know where else that you want to be.
Man, Seth, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming down.
it's been great.
It was awesome, man. That's like
Thank
I
you
could
so
keep talking
much.
for another hour.
I know, I could too. And hopefully we can do it again and come back. And
Absolutely.
that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.